When Roy Clark died in 2018, the world mourned the loss of a true country music legend. But nobody could have imagined what his family would discover months later in his old garage. What they found inside changed everything they thought they knew about the man who made millions smile with his banjo and guitar. This discovery will leave you speechless, just like it did his own family. But before we reveal this jaw-dropping secret, let me tell you about the incredible journey of Roy Clark, a man whose music touched hearts around the world for decades. Roy Clark was born on April 15, 1933, in a small town in Virginia. He was the oldest of 5 children in a family that didn't have much money, but they had something even more valuable: music. Roy's father worked hard during the day as a railroad worker, but when night came, he transformed into something magical. He would pick up his banjo, fiddle, and guitar, filling their small home with beautiful melodies that made young Roy's eyes light up with wonder. Roy's mother also played piano, and she poured her heart into every song. Little Roy would sit quietly, watching his parents create music that seemed to come straight from their souls. Even as a young boy, Roy knew that music wasn't just noise. It was pure magic. The first instrument Roy ever touched wasn't a fancy guitar or banjo. It was a simple cigar box with a ukulele neck attached to it that he found at school. The moment his small fingers touched those strings, something clicked inside him. He knew right then and there that music would be his life's calling. While other kids his age were focused on their homework and playing with toys, Roy was completely obsessed with making music. He would spend hours trying to write songs, even though the words were rough and the melodies were simple. But there was something pure and honest in his music that even he could feel. By the time Roy was 20, he was already performing in clubs and going on tours with famous country musicians. He appeared on television shows and radio programs, slowly building a reputation as one of the most talented guitar players anyone had ever seen. People started calling him Lightning Fingers because of how fast and skillfully he could play. But Roy's journey wasn't always smooth. He once got a job playing guitar for Jimmy Dean's band, but Roy had a problem with being on time. He was always late to rehearsals and shows, which drove Dean crazy. Eventually, Dean had enough and fired Roy in 1957. Roy was devastated, but he didn't give up. Instead, he learned from his mistakes and promised himself he would never let something like that happen again. Roy moved to Las Vegas, where he finally got his big break. He became the band leader for Wanda Jackson's group called the Party Timers. This job opened doors for him and helped him get a recording contract with Capitol Records. People were finally starting to notice the magic that Roy could create with his music. One of Roy's biggest moments came when he started appearing on The Tonight Show. The show's producers loved his talent and personality so much that they kept inviting him back. In 1963, Roy made his solo debut on the show, and it changed his life forever. But Roy's real claim to fame came in 1969, when he became the co-host of a comedy and music show called Hee Haw, alongside Buck Owens. This show made Roy a household name across America. For 20 years, he entertained over 30 million viewers every week with his music, jokes, and down-to-earth personality. He wasn't just a musician anymore. He was a beloved television star. During the height of his fame between 1969 and 1971, Roy was reportedly the highest-paid country music performer in the world. In 1973, he won the Country Music Association's and, sadly, on November 15, 2018, Roy Clark passed away at his home in Tulsa, Oklahoma. He died from complications related to pneumonia at the age of 85. The music world lost a true legend, and fans everywhere mourned the loss of a man who had brought so much joy into their lives. But this is where our story takes an unexpected turn. Months after Roy's death, his family was going through his belongings and cleaning out his property. His garage had been locked up and abandoned for years. Everyone assumed it was just filled with old car parts and junk that had been collecting dust. Roy's eldest son, Roy Linwood Clark Jr., decided it was time to clean out that old garage. When he opened the heavy doors, Sunlight streamed into a space that had been dark for years. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he saw something that didn't belong among the motor parts and old equipment. Sitting in the middle of the garage, next to a simple wooden table and chair, was a large wooden trunk covered in a fine layer of dust. It was clear that someone had been using this space regularly, but it had been neglected since Roy's death. Curiosity got the better of Roy Jr., and he carefully opened the old trunk. What he found inside brought tears to his eyes and changed everything his family thought they knew about Roy Clark. The first thing he saw was a large family portrait, painted in vivid, vibrant colors. The picture captured a moment right after one of Roy's shows, when the whole family had gathered together. Roy had just told a joke, and everyone was laughing with genuine joy. Their faces were glowing with happiness, and you could feel the love they had for each other just by looking at the image. Roy Jr. stared at the portrait, remembering that day when he was just a teenager. His father had been larger than life to him, a man who could make thousands of people smile with just a few notes. But instead of letting these feelings destroy him, Roy had found a way to cope that nobody knew about. He would sneak into his garage late at night, sit at that wooden table with his old guitar, and pour his heart out in songs that nobody else would ever hear. These weren't songs for his albums or his shows. These were songs for his soul. The letters revealed a side of Roy Clark that the world had never seen. In them, he wrote about feeling isolated and misunderstood, especially in his early career when he was so young and surrounded by older musicians. He wrote about the mistakes he had made, like being fired from Jimmy Dean's band for being irresponsible. He wrote about his fears of not being good enough and his worry that fame might change who he was at heart. But most importantly, Roy wrote about love. He wrote letters full of advice and encouragement for his children. He told them to be kind, to never give up on their dreams, and to always remember where they came from. In one letter he wrote, "It might take a while and there will be times when you will feel like quitting, but don't you dare give up. There are people out there who are cheering you on and others who are waiting for you to fail. Show your haters what success looks like. Don't slack. Don't quit." These weren't just words from a famous musician. They were words from a father who wanted his children to learn from his experiences and avoid his mistakes. Roy had learned the importance of respect, unity, and hard work, and he wanted to pass these lessons on to the people he loved most. Reading these letters, Roy's family realized that their father had been preparing them for life even after he was gone. He had created this secret space where he could be completely honest about his struggles and fears, and then he had transformed those raw emotions into wisdom and encouragement for his loved ones. In his hometown of Tulsa, Oklahoma, an elementary school was named after Roy Clark in recognition of all his contributions to the community. It's ironic because Roy never finished high school himself, but his life proved that education comes in many forms, and sometimes the most valuable lessons are learned through experience, determination, and staying true to yourself. Roy Clark's story reminds us that behind every smile, there might be struggles we can't see. Behind every success, there are usually failures and setbacks that helped shape the person. And behind every public figure, there's a real human being with fears, dreams, and a deep need for love and understanding. The discovery in Roy's garage wasn't just about finding old letters and a worn-out guitar. It was about discovering the heart and soul of a man who touched millions of lives with his music and his genuine, caring spirit. It was proof that Roy Clark was exactly who he appeared to be on stage, a man who believed in the power of music, the importance of family, and the value of never giving up on your dreams. So the next time you hear a Roy Clark song or see a clip of him on Hee Haw, remember that you're not just watching an entertainer. You're seeing a man who overcame incredible challenges, who never stopped believing in himself, and who left behind a legacy of love, laughter, and inspiration that will last forever. What do you think about Roy Clark's incredible story and the amazing discovery his family made in his garage? His journey from a poor kid with a cigar box guitar to a country music legend proves that with talent, determination, and a good heart, anything is possible. If this story touched your heart like it touched mine, please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories about the legends of Giwa.